What's the difference between a 700R4, a 4L60, and a 4L60E? There's kind of an evolution here that's important to understand. Let's start with the 700R4. The 700R4 transmission was introduced in the early 80s as an effort to make the old reliable Turbo 350 more fuel efficient by adding an overdriven top gear. They're easy to distinguish from TH350s because they have a more or less rectangular pan shape and no vacuum modulator. 700R4s have a throttle valve, which is acted on by a throttle valve or TV cable. And essentially what this is doing is relating the throttle to the transmission. You've likely heard horror stories about improperly adjusted cables burning up transmissions. Essentially, the cable acts on the throttle valve, and the idea is that more throttle will build more pressure in the transmission. The problem is, if they're not adjusted correctly, the transmission will either think heavy throttle is being applied when it's not, and will shift hard and late and can damage the transmission. Or the transmission thinks that minimal throttle is being applied when you stand on it, and will not build enough pressure, causing it to slip and, you guessed it, damage the transmission. Here's where things can get a little murky when you're talking about naming conventions. In 1990, GM decided to change the name of the 700R4 to the 4L60. Same transmission, but the new name meant 4 for 4-speed, L for longitudinal, the way that it sat in the chassis, and then 60 was a rough indicator of torque handling. Otherwise, they retained the TV cable and there was no electronic control on early 4L60s. Then, in 1993, the 4L60 became the 4L60E. That meant that that problematic old throttle valve was replaced by an electronic control that was tied to the car or truck's computer. That electronic control has made these 4L60Es popular as a retrofit into old cars because with an aftermarket controller like this one, you're able to dial in shift points, shift firmness with the push of a button instead of manually adjusting cables. That also makes the 4L60E easy to spot because they have a big electrical connector above the pan rail and no provision for a TV cable. Otherwise, these still carried the same pan shape and, until the two-piece bell housing was introduced in '96, a more or less identical case.